Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for staying here. I've got a story that's a little bit different to the other boys. The uranium and base metal story in Saskatchewan has driven us for the last 14 years. And I think it's coming to fruition. The next 90 days are going to be a very exciting time for CanAlaska. So good afternoon. Thank you for staying. I'm Peter Dasler. I'm the President and CEO of CanAlaska. And I put together an extensive PowerPoint that's in your sticks, your memory sticks, and I've taken a few of those slides to go through here just in the last part of the afternoon. It's going to let you know why I think you should invest in CanAlaska, why we're undervalued, and a bunch of information about the uranium market, but more particularly about what's happened on our property with Cameco in the last 3 months. We have a bunch of assets in the company. We had over 2.5 million acres of land in the Athabasca Basin back in 2004. We carried out a tremendous amount of work for Japanese and Korean partners that worked with us. Mitsubishi Corporation put in $18 million into one of our projects, and that project is now currently being funded by Cameco for $12.5 million with a new discovery. We put in about $20 million with our Korean partners, Korean Electric Power, Korean Resources Corporation, into another project, and then last year we were able to buy that back. It's been a tough 7 years because of Fukushima. We have a variety of other assets that we've looked at over the last little while, but we've kept that 27 million shares intact for the last 4 years. In about 8 weeks before Fukushima happened, we had just gained a main board listing on the Toronto Exchange, and we had completed a financing at $1.65 with Hong Kong partners. 8 weeks later, Fukushima happened. We drifted from 24 million shares at $1.65 down to 35 cents, down to 10 cents. No one was interested in uranium. We now only have 3,500 more shares issued. They were issued at 58 cents and 60 cents, 58 cents and 50 cents. So there's only 3.5 million shares of CanAlaska issued under $1.65, and we're trading at 35 cents at the moment. And that's evident last year when you saw our share price jump to $1.55. We managed to do a deal. We're a prospect generator. We generated a diamond project that's still very much alive. And you'll see more about that in the future. But that pushed our shares in a very, very short time to $1.55. We had the backing of a new partnership with Cameco, but that didn't get started really until August last year. In August last year, they started the 2016 drill program 8 months late. Our stock dropped from 45, 50 cents down to 25 cents or so. It was frustrating to know that they were going to do the program, but we didn't quite know when. But in August, when they started drilling, they started hitting uranium. And that is the key thing I wanted to tell you about today. I'm into uranium exploration because I believe that we need to have a lot more clean energy in this world. We see the population growth, we see the amount of energy that people need over the time, we see the build out in China, but this has all got to become from clean energy. We can't keep putting coal, CO2 emissions in the air. I look at the number of emissions from volcanoes, that pales into comparison to what we're doing burning crops or burning coal and putting CO2 in the air. So the fundamentals are that China is building a tremendous number of nuclear power plants. India, the UAE, Saudi Arabia, England, and 5 in the USA. They're building these nuclear power plants so that they have an 80-year life of power at 12 cents a kilowatt hour. China is the ones that we hear most about. They're building 5 to 6 nuclear power plants a year, and it's most likely that they're going to double that over the short term. To have cheap, clean energy means they have cheap, clean air, well, they have clean air, and they aren't losing the number of people that die in smog every year. There's 1.5 million people in China dying just from smog. They're cutting that dependence on coal, and since coal has been a huge factor in development around the world, you have to replace that energy with something like uranium because that's very clean. Let's go put it in perspective. That kilogram of uranium will run that light bulb for 876 years. You know, a kilogram of coal will run that light bulb for 16 days. Gas is about half as polluting, 45% as polluting as coal. We're burning a huge amount of gas because it's cheap. That Tesla is 300 horsepower, and you take it home and plug it into a 20 horsepower house. Take 2 of them home. You know, this is crazy. Where's the energy going to come from? We need nuclear power to give us clean energy, otherwise we're going to be smogging ourselves in. Now, we're working in Manitoba and Saskatchewan. I put a thumbs up there because it's in our backyard. They're jurisdictions that we know very well, but in Manitoba and Saskatchewan, we have huge uranium deposits and huge nickel deposits. The build-out of nuclear power, you can see it there. That's a graphic that I like putting up because it really lets you see where things are happening. You're not in China every day, but look what's happening in China every day. Look what's happening in the US with the 5 nuclear power plants being built. There are 36 nuclear power plants under permitting right now. They will get built. Some of them will be very small power plants. There were 250 designs for power plants generated in the 1960s. Many of them work extremely well, but we only settled on 2 different types. How about some of the smaller ones? They all need uranium, and that's what we're looking for. So this demand for uranium was a great business case for us to get involved, and we did that 14 years ago. Now, nickel in the Thompson nickel belt is something you'll see in the handout I gave you, but again, we're in our own backyard, working in jurisdictions with partnerships that are quite amazing. As I mentioned, Mitsubishi Corporation, the Koreans, but a number of English and Canadian corporations. We were funded for about $1.5 million a year as a contractor. We had a staff of 35 people. We have a staff of 3 people now. But that staff earned income for the company, so we weren't diluting the shareholders, and that again is why we only got 27 million shares issued right now. The Athabasca Basin is where we were very dominant in 2004 with 2.5 million acres of land. We've got about 500,000 acres of land now, and we have multiple projects that we've optioned out to other people and retained royalties. But the one that I've pointed out there, West MacArthur, is the one that Cameco's taken on. Even though Cameco has vast land holdings in the Athabasca, and we're at the low of the market, and they're cutting back on production, they entered into a $12.5 million deal with us a year and a half ago. Now, to give you some idea of scale, the properties, both of those 2 red properties in the southeast part of the basin there, are roughly 30 by 40 kilometers. The bigger one would take you from the North Shore down to White Rock, out to Langley, up to Maple Ridge. Vast areas of land that have huge potential. Because when we walked in there in 2004, we said, there's got to be more of these deposits. You've seen NextGen ride this wave over the last little while. They found a deposit, and they've ridden a wave of profit for their partners. Now to get into the nuts and bolts of what I wanted to tell you, specifically in one area of one of our 9 uranium properties, 15 kilometers west of the MacArthur River mine, that giant mine that produces 17% of the world's uranium every day, 17% of about 18% of the world's energy comes out of there every day, only mining 193 tons of rock. The rock is worth somewhere between $15,000 and $25,000 a ton. Cameco started exploring nearby, and they found Fox Lake, 68 million pounds of 8% uranium. That's huge. That's a tremendous value. But when they finished working on that, they looked across the property line at our property, and I'd just done a deal to buy out Mitsubishi Corporation, and they said, we like what's happening. That conductor that we've been following does a zigzag and comes onto your property, and we'd like to do some work. We negotiated a deal where they'd spend the $12.5 million there. Another look at it. You see that red blob down at the bottom on grid 5? That's about 2 kilometers long. And the drill holes that we had the discoveries in September, we were trading at 38 cents on the discovery day. We're trading at 35 cents today. The market's been in another world. They've been in cryptocurrency. They've been in marijuana. You know what? This is a solid discovery. Cameco's put their full discovery team behind this, and they're not going to give up on this until they're finished. They're spending another $3 million and putting another 6,000 meters of drilling into here. What does that mean for CanAlaska? Those are the drill holes that hit. You see there's a 30-meter offset in the unconformity about 100 meters behind us, geological torque. But you could put a 9-story building in there, and that's a lot of preparatory rock for putting uranium. That's just like you've got at MacArthur River. The two arrows up the top show you how far the half ppm uranium halo goes up, 500 meters up from the unconformity. And if you look up the top there, that bleached rock, we've got dravite clays right to surface, high temperature clay alteration for 800 meters, a huge target. And that target is physically bigger than what you would see at McArthur River or Cigar Lake. And that's why I'm excited for the next 90 days. That's what we've been looking for the last 14 years. As a cartoon, that's what McArthur River looks like. And that red drill hole is what they're drilling right now. They started on Thursday. Yep. So there we are. We're a project generator. We've got a bunch of projects on the way. We have a new discovery. We've got a very tight share structure. Don't worry about the yesterdays. Go buy our stock on Monday. There was lots of yesterdays where you say, I should have bought it then. That's next gen. $1 billion worth of capital value in 3 years on 200 million pounds of uranium. That's what we're looking for. Thank you very much.